Steven Tyler today. He is a rock and roll idol. This guy is incredible. And I want to start out by saying, how many of y'all think $20 million is a lot of money? I hope all of y'all think that's a lot of money. If y'all don't, y'all are crazy. I even think that's a lot of money. So, first article that I read, and I love this article, is I sorted my Porsche, my plane, and my house. This guy went through $20 million worth of heroin and cocaine. Also alcohol. Let's not forget that. The guy was nuts back in his day. And my God, I kind of respect him for it a little bit. Because he became a rock and roll idol. Because back then, it was all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Can't forget that. Steven Tyler had many hits as Aerosmith's lead singer. So as we move forward, I want to talk about some of the things his bandmates thought of him. They have a book called Walk This Way. It was published by Aerosmith. They were the ones that wrote it. So it was his bandmates talking about him. And they tell a story in this book. And it's a pretty cool story because it kind of explains his demeanor back in his day. The guy was off getting high while the rest of the band was doing their thing. They were practicing. And Steven Tyler was off getting high. Steven Tyler was a wild man back in his day. But he also had an alcohol problem. This alcohol problem was bad as well. I mean, we all know alcohol problems are bad. Steven Tyler tells a story. And he tells a story about when he was a young man in Boston. Young rocker. And he was out on a golf course. He had some girls, he had a tent, he had some alcohol. Well, the story goes, he wakes up in the morning to the word "for" being yelled. Well, what does "for" mean? Well, he didn't realize he was on a golf course. Turns out he was on the third hole of this golf course, nude and hungover. Well, that's an interesting way to wake up. You have someone looking like me playing golf, going through the motions. And there's Steven Tyler. Nude Steven Tyler with God knows how many girls. That was madman. And he was hungover. Now the thing 60 Minutes talks about, there was a show called 60 Minutes. I hope y'all have heard of 60 Minutes. It's on CBS. And they talk about what he was like back in the day as well. He had a nickname called the Toxic Twin. Him and Joe Perry were both drug addicts together. And these guys were so wild that they would supposedly tear dressing rooms apart. They get up on stage and there's stories of them not even being able to operate accordingly. He couldn't sing. This guy is a timeless voice, a voice that will be remembered forever as being one of the best voices to ever be heard up on stage. And there were times that he'd get up on stage and sing off pitch. He was that high. In fact, he had a 14-inch drum head that he would have his drugs in. He'd have, I think it was cocaine, and he would have Jack Daniels and Coke. And he'd go back while he was on stage, and he'd drink, he'd do cocaine. Not completely sure how you do cocaine. Is it like that, I think, type of thing going on? So, that was him in his younger years. Now, they got so bad that in the 1980s, they broke up for 4 years. Well, as I said, he spent $20 million on drugs. So eventually he ran out of money, which caused him to get back together. But the great part about him getting back together is they all decided to clean up. Steven Tyler got clean. It was 25 years he hasn't done cocaine or heroin. At least that's what he says. So he got clean. Well, they got back together, and by the mid-1990s, Steven Tyler was, of course, the rock star we see him as today, huge again. Everybody knew his name. Well, the only problem he had in this 25 years is, unfortunately, in 2009, he kind of had, you could call it a relapse, so to speak. He got addicted to painkillers. I don't know if y'all saw the news back then, but he kind of passed out on a stage and rolled off onto the floor. It's kind of a big deal. Broke some body parts, had to go back to rehab, had to go to the hospital. His bandmates kind of punished him for this. They decided not to talk to him for a while and look for a new lead singer, which led him to go and be an American Idol judge, which was good. The rehab, though, that I thought the cool part, though, what caused him to check into rehab for this, actually, was supposedly his son told him one day, "Dad, you were so high, I was scared." I think that's cool because it shows that he's a father figure. If y'all watched American Idol, you can see that he had a good heart, man. The guy has a good heart. He's nuts, and I'm sure he likes to have love in an elevator, but the guy has a good heart. Steven Tyler was an inspiration to me, furthermore, because it was my first concert. I don't know if I'd be a songwriter today if it wasn't for that concert. The guy up on stage, he has a presence like no one you've ever seen before. He's all over the place. Even at 62, like the guy is nuts. He's all over the stage. He can still dance. His feet move better than mine do. And I'm 20. That's a problem. But he is an inspiration. From the fact that he writes music, the guy when he writes, it's really cool because he scats. If you watch him writing a song in the studio, he scats. And then the words come naturally after that. And I think that's awesome. The guy from a standpoint of being a musician, incredible. He is incredible. But even more incredible is the fact that he is able to become clean after being a drug addict. I mean, being addicted to something like cocaine and heroin, I can't imagine being addicted to that. But he became clean. Thank you.